My memories of Colombe itself was an old lady first thing in the morning with a mallet, large mallet, which she took into the field adjacent to us, and there was a cow fastened up to a peg on a chain. She would take the peg out, move the chain forward one pace, and hammer the peg back in again. And the cow then proceeded to eat the extra grass that it could then reach. This rather took the edge off to where we'd actually landed. I myself was helping once again, doing all the things we did at Manson, reloading the aircraft with rockets, and myself looking after the engines and checking the serviceability, which we had to do on all the occasions. The one thing that did strike me, though, one evening I went out for a walk just outside of this farm section onto the main road. As I walked down this road, I came aware that on either side there was people who had died, and they were buried alongside the roadsides. You could see their boats sticking out of the soil, and at the foot of where the boats were was their rifle and helmet. The helmet stood on the butt of the gun. This really brought to me what war was all about. And as I walked down this lane, the whole length as I walked had the same thing. Head to toe were bodies just underneath the verge. Further down, I found a small chapel which I went into just to relax my mind of what it was all about. And to my amazement, I saw there what looked like the Brigade Tapestry. And as I looked at it and walked around, so it depicted the fight that took place for King Harold. And in due course, I did see the material with Harold there, with his arrow in his forehead. And it made me think, where was I going? Here was a man who tried to do his best. Anyway, as I came out, so I felt much better in myself and went forward back to the camp and once again entered into looking after the aircraft and doing my duty. The next move, I don't know where we went to. It was a matter of getting to the truck, and the trucks moved off, and the next landing strip, we did the same thing once again, looking after myself, looking after the engines, and all the other people doing their jobs. And this happened each time we moved forward. In due course and time, we came to where Melsbroek, which was just outside of Brussels. In Brussels, myself and my friend, in due course, did get into a spare time where we could catch the tram and travel down into Brussels itself. This we did do, and on the first occasion going in, we was amazed to see all the different types of ice cream in the shops, which we duly indulged in having some, and they were very pleased to get our English liberation money. From there, we went into the cinema, and lo and behold, there was Errol Flynn in the charge of the Light Brigade doing his stuff. My pal and myself duly lit a cigarette in the cinema, and the next thing we knew was people flying in from all angles telling us to put them out, as you weren't allowed to smoke in the cinema. So we abandoned the charge of the Light Brigade and came out and had a walk round. In due course and time, we returned back to the camp with the trams, as we call them, where the chap at the back would blow a hunting horn to tell it was ready to move forward. In due course, we returned back to our unit. This continued for a while, and all the time I began to realise how far forward we were. To my amazement, when looking around, I noticed the big houses, which was actually on the side of the road, was actually hangars that had been used for maintenance and what have you by the Germans. And as we were there, a film unit did actually pass. Who they were or where they went, I don't know. The next time we went on a short break into Brussels, I found myself in a situation which I hope I never experience again. As we was walking along, I don't know who he was, but obviously he was one of the Liberation Forces civilians, and he mistook us, myself and my friend, as Germans. My personal experience was having an automatic machine gun stuck under my chin and him screaming words which I had no idea of. Fortunately for ourselves, there was a person at the other side of the road who instantly recognised us for what we were. Fortunately, he was able to speak English, and he came across and spoke to the chap with the gun that we were English airmen, and if he would look at our caps on our heads, that we had 2 brass buttons which indicated that we was British, and that the Germans would only have 1, that indicated a German. With this irate chap backed off and left us to this stranger. To this day, I don't know who his name was, but I will tell you what happened from then. He took us home to an address in a very large house, and when we went in, the first thing he did was offer us a drink, which we were duly had, and we did feel relaxed for the first time. And then, to our surprise, he asked both of us, could we sing Lilly of the Laguna, this being an old-fashioned tune. Both of us said yes, And with that, he asked us to go along with him to another house. This may all sound strange, but this is what actually happened. As we went to this other house, we went inside, and there he spoke to the owner. And the request he made to us, once again, can you sing Lilly of Laguna? Which we replied once again, yes. And so both of us started singing it. If you don't know it, here's just a little bit of it. She's my lady love, she's my love, my turtle dove. She's the girl for sitting down to dream. She's the only girl Laguna knows. Oh, she likes me because she said so. I gently said so. She's my Lily of Laguna. She's my Lily and my own. Now, that's my version of it. My words might not be quite correct. But, to our amazement, the panel we was looking at moved. To say we was astonished would be the least. As it moved, from behind it came people. I do know there was a lady, but my mind's blank on who else came. The one thing they did do was give us a hug, and that was the last I ever saw of them. The person who took us then returned us back to his own home, where he had wine glasses already out, and on the sides were 3 stages of pigs, a little pig at the bottom, a medium pig in the middle, and a big pig at the top. And with that he filled them right to the top. He says, you've done a marvellous job, and thank you. And from him I understand those people had lived up in the attic all the time that the Germans had been in Brussels. To me, it was an utter amazement, and still is today, to think they must have lived in such fear that one wrong move and the lot would have been shot. Of course, there were Jewish people. And with that, this person who we'd met asked us if we could inform the person who was actually the husband of the lady we'd released. Of course, we said instantly yes. Whereupon he gave me an address, and after an ice bath and food, we then said cheerio, and we had to return back to camp. When I returned back to the camp, I contacted one of the pilot officers, and told him our experience. And he said that the best thing we could do was to wait and have a word. This word came back from whoever he spoke to, that we could put on the address that he'd given us in the least words, but to the effect that this lady and family had come out of hiding. This I did do, and before sending it back to England, I sent it to the CO or officer, whoever he was, who checked it out, and the bare details was authorised. I in turn posted it to my mother in Hull, who I asked if she would send it to the address that I had been given, to let them know that his wife and other people were safe. In due course and time, this letter came back to me to say from the actual husband who lived in London to say how pleased he was his family was safe. And to me, this was the highlight, and to me, what the war was about. People being in hiding and threatened with death and showing their faces. And I'd done my little bit. And that's from that time I did meet this person on one or two occasions. He was in short of cigarettes. We was able to supply them, and which meant that we got a little bit more Belgian money, which meant that we could spend a little bit more than the issue money from the British people. These was issued to us, the actual money, in British made, which the continental people would do anything to get hold of, because it was actual money. This may sound crazy to you, but even to this day, I don't really realise just how bad it was for them. I personally have some of this money, and I think a great deal of it. Anyway, that's the story I'd like to tell you, and I'm hoping you've been able to understand it. On returning back to our camp, I informed the CO, who was kept informed at all times, just in case something was wrong. In due course and time, we left Melsbrook and moved forward again to, I don't know where the places were, but I do know as we advanced, at one point we came and into full contact with the German tank brigade. This was known as Falaise, and at Falaise we there proved our ability to destroy Tiger tanks or any other German tank. I've learnt since the war that a great deal were actually destroyed, and as far as I'm concerned, where the Germans tank brigades, when they saw typhoons above, they got out and ran. This I have been told from one of the pilots I was speaking to, which in turn, having heard and seen tapes since on the telly, that the actual fact the Germans, when they knew typhoons were above, was anything but happy, and that the British armies and tanks could go forward, which in due course and time we finished up at Eindhoven. By this time it was nearly Christmas time, and in actual fact we did spend our Christmas at Eindhoven, where we did have a little Christmas dinner served by the officers to say, shall we say, to serve, which is a tradition in the Air Force, having had it before. After the meal, we was given the actual menu printed both in English and in Dutch, which once again I do have.